Hey, everybody.
Andrew, what's this? The Blues Brothers.
What happened here?
Well, what do you call them? We call them sunnies in Australia.
Shades in America.
Yes, shades and sunnies. And I do need to take them off to see where people are coming from. It's a little bit dark. Oh, we've got Doug from Melbourne in Australia. Hi,
Nice.
Doug. How are you?
Excellent.
And let's see who else is coming. I always find this interesting, Andrew.
Well, yeah, let us know where you're watching from, everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
And you were saying, Sandra?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say it's quite hot already in Sydney. That's where I'm from. Andrew, this is a little bit of a joke. It's the centre of the universe. That's how I say Sydney is. But I'm sure my Melbourne people will go, oh, no. All good, Doug? Fabulous.
Barbara's here. Good to see you. Beautiful day here in Central Oregon. Nice.
Nice, yep. Howdy, Barbara.
Just a few hours above me in Los Angeles.
Yep.
We got
another Aussie.
Sam.
Fantastic.
Yep. Dave from Liverpool. Nice.
Home of the Beatles. Let's see who else is coming in.
Yeah, let us know.
I'll have to put the shades on.
Where are you watching from?
Looking.
Yeah, for now.
Yeah, I'll do that, Andrew. There you go.
Yeah, there we go.
There we go. Oh, you got to have a little bit of a laugh in there. Sorry, I can't. I could do this, but I won't. But anyway. Norway. Oh, beautiful. Been there. It's a lovely country to photograph.
Yep. Tour from Norway. Great.
Yep. This is like the lottery, Andrew. You're just waiting for the numbers to come through.
That's right.
Oh, Barbara, what's the topic today? Great question. Why do you create? Yep. So get the thinking caps on. Why do you create?
There it is. There it is. Why do you create?
Fantastic. Thanks, Andrew.
And open to all avenues of creating. So, video, audio, music, visual, of course. So digital artists and photographers who will be joining us today.
Yep. And it's interesting what the word create means to different people, I think. And that's what I would really like to hear, as well as why do you create and what does the word create mean to you?
Right. So might as well jump into that. So please let us know in the comments, why do you create? Let's start the conversation. Why do you create?
Why do you create, Andrew?
I was going to ask you, but you beat me to it. So yes, I mean, it's interesting. It's for me, it's, in some ways it's almost like therapy. So it's a way to kind of go into this kind of beautiful world that you get so kind of involved in that it's timeless, and you don't have to worry about what's going on or what plans you might have in the future. So you're kind of in the zone. And then speaking of the zone, so it's a mixture of therapy and also meditation for me. So it's very much like a form of meditation that I enjoy. And it's kind of dance. It feels like a dance that I do with life. So it's something that I do that I feel like it makes me more kind of connected to life. So, yeah. And you, Sandra?
Actually, I'm just looking at Barbara's comment. It's what I was born to do. Mum said I came out drawing in space with my fingers.
Oh,
I just
sweet.
love that, Barbara.
It's a great image.
That is fantastic. Why do I? We've got Swati in. Why do I create? I find it, and I use the word cathartic for me, Andrew. It's just I can get in there, create something. I don't think of anything else that's out in the world, worrying about bills or, I've got to be here. I'm just in the zone. But it also speaks to me and my soul, and that's why I create.
Nice.
And create can be, I think, different things. It doesn't mean an image, but it could be something else that's creative that feeds your soul.
Nice.
But I do love Barbara's interpretation of that. I thought I'd have to test that theory there, Barbara. And let's have it. Oh, we've got Swati in there. Doug, why do you create? I'd be interested. Doug, we've got a few others in there. Tor, let's get the chat happening.
Yeah, Dave, let us know why you
Yeah.
create. Sam.
We're waiting with bated breath to hear your response on being creative, or why do you create? Andrew, here's a question. And while we're just waiting for people to put up their responses, were you always creative from when you were little, or did you get more creative as you got maturer?
Yeah, it's kind of been different in different ways. Yeah. So when I was younger, I was into drawing and painting, and we had this kind of secret passageway behind a bookshelf, which was interesting, in our house. And I used to go in there and like just draw and paint and read and stuff. And it was quite fun, like a real kind of introvert's fantasy, this little
Yes.
secret passageway. And the one thing that was really nice is because I was into the arts growing up, my mom paid for like a private tutor for a bit, where I was very young, but I was sitting on a stool and painting and learning how to paint with a teacher. And then I did go to art college. So I went to art college for fine arts, and I was a printmaking major, and I did painting, drawing, printmaking. And you, did you study?
I was the child that loved colouring and could not colour outside the lines. I had to colour within the lines. Yeah, there's some really good answers coming up now, or comments, which is fantastic. Had to colour in the lines. I cut out, or dare I say, Christmas cards. Remember the Christmas cards you used to get? Cut them out and, paste them in a scrapbook. Did painting, and it just sort of stemmed there. But I went in and out of creativity. So it wasn't always the driving force. But let's have a look at some of these, Andrew. Creation, food for the soul. Fantastic.
Yep, there it is. Yep.
Yep.
Swati.
Yep.
And I like this comment where they say, I love to create because it's the only time my head is quiet. So many reasons. I love the sense of joy and peace. Yeah, and that's what I was saying about getting into the zone. So getting into the zone, it's timeless, you kind of transcend a lot of things. Yeah.
Here's another good.
Introverts, wondering what percentage of artists are introvert versus extrovert. Yeah.
Ooh.
I think we probably tend to be more introverted. Yeah.
So I would say, all right, even though I've worked in what I call a training teaching role, which is sort of perceived as extrovert, I would consider myself an introvert. I can work with people, but I'm quite happy within my own company. And so that's a really interesting point about being introvert. And that comes from my adult education background, looking at it, that I think, we as artists, creatives, can look within ourselves, and also look out and look at the world and perceive it in a different way.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel very introverted, but then comfortable with shows like this, where I have to kind of take the lead. And so, yeah.
And also putting sunglasses or shades on at the beginning there, Andrew. Add that little fun in there. Yeah, exactly. There's another one from Facebook user, and it's, I love to create because it's the only time my head is quiet.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, the zone.
Yeah, the zone. Yep. And doing that.
Yep. Barbara says 61% of artists are
Thanks,
introverts.
Barbara. Gosh, where would we be without Dr. Google? Looking at all those comments. But here's an interesting question too. What does the word create mean to you? Because like when I explain or try and put a label on myself, and I hate putting labels, is that I would sort of say that I'm a creative photographer or a creative digital artist. But what does the word create mean? And I think everyone has a different perception. So
let us know.
Yeah. Yep.
Let us know in the comments.
And this is what we're wanting, is people, to put a comment up so that we can then start talking about it and, getting us into different topics. because I don't know about you, Andrew, but when you're with like-minded people that are creative, you can look a little bit deeper in what being creative is and what speaks to your soul and why you do it.
Yeah, and I'm very curious about the way they perceive and think. So do let us know.
Yeah, and Andrew, what would be the word create mean to you? Like, how do you perceive create?
I guess a good way of saying is making something out of nothing. So the idea that I might first start off with an idea of something, and then I take some of my images and some stock images and then put it together and then create, manifest something that wasn't there before. So I manifest a vision, basically what it is with my digital art, and bring kind of life to it. And I would say for you, it's kind of like storytelling, right? So for creating.
Yeah, for me, it is about more so now. So I'll come back. That some of you would know that I started as a landscape photographer. And so to me, photography is still being creative because you're making creative choices with your camera. What ISO, what aperture, they're creative choices. And so it comes in like, why do you create? So when you're taking a landscape, you're making those. But as I've come more into my whimsical style, it's about something that is transferring people to another place. And it doesn't have to be real. And it doesn't have to have the shadows. It doesn't have to have all of that reality. It's just going to another place. And so for me, it is storytelling.
Yeah.
And, it's the whimsical. It's also telling a story with innate objects.
Yeah, I would love to see like a book of your work, and it'd be like a stories come to life type of.
Yeah,
book.
that's on the project. I need 48 hours in a day, though. I think we're all in the same.
Gotta clone ourselves, right?
We've got to clone ourselves. But, okay, we're putting it out there to the lovely international community. What does the word create mean to you?
Barbara says, creating, sharing our perceptions of reality we desire to or actually experience. That's nice. Nice way of saying it.
Yeah, exactly. And that sort of is the interesting part, why we all look at different. And I think why do we create can be based on our life experiences, what we've been exposed to. We also make creative choices with colours. Okay, Andrew's put up, yeah. I like that, Andrew. Imagination.
Yeah, relaxation and imagination. Yeah. Good to see you here, Andrew, as well.
Yeah.
And it says, Swati says, Andrew, you took the words right out of my mouth. It's like giving birth to something beautiful to make something out of nothing. Creation brings me peace and joy. Yeah. Nice.
Now, see,
I think especially during a pandemic, that creation has become like another fun form of therapy. When we've been in the kind of a strange situation,
Yeah, who would have thought this time? But I found that I've become more creative in this time of actually thinking of ideas, and also a way of quietening down what I call the inner monkey, the inner mind.
Right, monkey mind.
Yep, the inner mind. And Andrew, you've spoken about the word imagination, and I think that's one of the keys in why do you create. And imagination, it was interesting, if I can share this story. A gentleman put up a post of a composite.
Sure.
And he said, I wish it was real. And I said, it was real because it was in your imagination. And I think that is, how you can look at creative images, that it is in your, imagination, and you're bringing it to light. Or as Swati said, it actually gives you birth. Yeah, there's a comment there from Doug, Andrew.
I create because I must. Yeah, exactly. Feels. Yeah. I think for us creatives, it does feel like it's a very important day-to-day ritual, part of a big part of our lives. I know for sure that there's times when I get so busy with other things that I have to do and I can't create, that I do feel empty. I feel like something's missing, that like I'm not touching upon that other realm. So
Do you find, Andrew, even though at the moment I'm not creating images, but I'm thinking of ideas and elements that I want to use, but I'm still using that creative switch? You like that? And anyone else, is that what happens? Because I can't put an image out every day.
right, yeah, I don't like to force it. So it's sort of like if I have to be moved by an idea, but there are times when I'm listening to music and that'll give me an idea for something. So a lot of times music will kind of springboard a visual idea for me. And Richard is here, says hello, Andrew and everyone else. Andrew and Sandra. Yeah.
Hi, Richard. Yeah, I think that for creative people, it's or why do you create? It just gives us so much joy. But I think we're all different on how we create. I can't create every day, but when it hits, and I have to just let it go. So, for example, on Saturday, I just had the urge to create something, and I put out 5 images. I created some what I call fine art textured backgrounds, and I just punched them out because it was just like it was built up, and I had to let it just get out. Does anyone else feel like that?
Well, Barbara says one can be an artist without ever selling their creations. Do you consider the label of artist and creator as synonymous?
Oh, interesting.
It's a hard one there. I don't know.
Now, I'll go out on the cliff's edge, Andrew, on that one. I agree, Barbara, that you can still be an artist and produce artwork or a creative image, but you may not sell. And I think that comes back into going back a few years, that if you said you were an artist, it was a perception that you sold your work. And I think now you can sell your work, but you can also create for your own enjoyment.
Absolutely. Let's see. Sam says, like others have said, I create to zone out from reality. Great booster for mental health. Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
And Andrew Nichols says, it's my therapy to cope with my PTSD. Great. It's a focus, right? And Richard says, I know what you're talking about in creating. There was a point in my life where I didn't even pick up a camera for 6 months, and then all of a sudden it hit like lightning. Sorry. I know exactly what you mean.
Yep.
Don't have to say sorry.
No.
You're here for it. It's great. It's good to hear that.
I find this, Andrew, really interesting, because I think there's not many places where you can come in as a group of creators and express this. And some people will go, ooh, but other creators will go, this is great, because this is expressing ourselves and who we are as a creative soul.
Right.
Yep.
I'm similar. Not every day when an idea strikes me. Sometimes I can make Photoshop work fast enough to keep up with me. It's charm. Great.
It's charm. I think it's charm. I know who charm is. Yeah. Isn't it interesting how we all can work differently? Andrew, here's a question, and it's to get me thinking. When you were in that creative world in advertising, were you expected to create every day, or was it an expectation? Because you're on a deadline, or there's a project that's got to be finished.
Yeah, that was interesting. So yeah, Sandra's referring to back in the 90s, trying to not date myself, but back in the 90s when I worked for advertising, I did retouching and compositing for advertising agencies. So that was interesting. So that's another kind of topic to bring up is, do you enjoy creating for others? So when I was doing that, I was doing the retouching for clients, for the for the advertising agencies and their clients. So the retouching and then the photo compositing, it's creative, of course, but it's creating for them, and they have the ownership, and that's their, further development, how they're going to use it. So yeah, working for that it's interesting because it's creative to a degree, but it's kind of hard when you know that they have ownership. And that, to be honest, that was one thing that was very frustrating to me when I did work for advertising. Was it was hard for certain agencies to allow you to show, have ownership of just prints, to show a before and after in your portfolio. And it was very frustrating to me when there were agencies that would say, no, absolutely not, we don't allow that. And then you had done some really amazing work for them, so you don't have examples of the work that you did. So that was kind of a frustrating thing. Whereas I guess that's what is very satisfying, is to know that when you create on your own, it's yours, and you can go back years later, you can go back and look at it and just kind of say, oh, what mood was I in? What headspace was I in at that time?
Exactly.
It's kind of like a visual diary. So it's nice to have that power. Yeah.
Yeah. Doug said he comes from the same background.
Oh yeah,
and,
there it is.
You know,
and Sam.
Yep, Sam. Sorry there, Andrew.
That's all right. You don't have to be commercial to be a creative artist.
Yeah, that's very true. I was explaining to someone, when I create my images, it's because I still get the joy out of creating for something, or creating something. It's not because I want to sell it, or I want to get X amount of likes on Instagram or Facebook. It's because I still get the pure joy of creating an image and sharing. And I think once you lose that joy, then I think it becomes manufactured in your images, for me personally.
Right. Now, I have a question for you. So I was saying, like, when I worked for advertising, you could be working on a very creative project, but it's not yours. So there's the pleasure of creating for someone else, but knowing that you don't really have ownership of it. But at the same time, working on smaller projects for people, I think I get a bit more of a satisfaction, because I almost feel like we're working on it together, as opposed to like a big company that's just kind of pumping images out as such, or, trying to get a new promotion out or something. Would you say that even though there's times that you work on an image for someone else, it's still a pleasurable experience for you, right? I mean,
yeah, that's a really good take on that, Andrew's. Yep, I do it for my own pleasure, and for me, that's probably one of the blockers, Andrew, that I've got at the moment about putting a book together, and sort of thinking, these are images that I put my heart and soul in, and I was in a creative mode, but putting it into a book, how can I express that? And also looking at it, I'm doing it for an outcome. And so there's a little blocker there for me, that it's like, well, what images do I choose? And do I need to tell a story? So it comes in because this is, to me, a different mindset where I'm at the moment of putting an illustrated book together.
Nice.
And that, so we've got, yeah.
So I was going to say, one thing that I realized, and you have to, here's another aspect of the whole kind of dialogue about creativity. You have to be true to your kind of creativity. And one thing I learned was, in the past, as a freelancer, I had also studied and gotten pretty good at least to an intermediate level with, like, say, InDesign. So Adobe InDesign, doing layout and type kind of stuff. And I won't name any companies, but I got in the door through a creative agency, doing some InDesign work at a company. And then we had our own kind of a space. And then after a month or so, I don't know why, I didn't necessarily do anything different than the other freelancers I was with, but they basically promoted me and moved me up to my own kind of cubicle in another floor. And a lot of times I was just taking the text and tweaking it. And so just basic kerning, tracking and kerning. And then what would happen is the supervisor, the art director, would take a look and then, told me that I had to put down like the exact amount that I had tracked and kern after printing it out. And it was so dry to me that I just did not like it at all. And I kept thinking, I can do this, but I really am a Photoshop guy, a Photoshop artist to a degree and retoucher. So for me, it was just very, it was kind of a wake up call that, if you can do other things, that's great. But if your heart's not into it, it's a burden. So.
And that's a real good story, Andrew, because I think, many of us have been into jobs that our heart's not in it. And so it's the same for being creative. Some great comments coming up now.
Right. I was going to say, Barbara is kind of jumping into that about the idea of a graphic designer. So would you say the public perceives a graphic designer as always or rarely an artist? Once again, I think it's, there's been some extremely creative graphic design projects. And once again, I've talked about this before on other lives, is I'm a big fan of Adobe's Behance. So Behance is a way that different artists of all kinds can showcase their work. And you can have like a portfolio online, and then you can also have the links to your other sites. But I've seen some amazing graphic design stuff that I wouldn't even know where to begin to do it. And that's what I love about Behance. You can see such a great variety. But I would also say that there's some projects where you're just kind of tweaking text, and I'm not even sure I would, dare to call it creative, even though for someone else they might think of it as creative. And then Douglas says, considering your background, do you find that you now take the time to create, put the work away, and revisit it with absolutely? Yeah. So when I do my work, it's a great question, Douglas. When I do my work, I do tend to I get into a zone, I do the work, it has a certain feel. And then sometimes I feel it might be done at that amount of time, an hour or two. And then other times I feel like there's just an element missing. And I do think, though, even when I feel it might be done, I will keep it open in Photoshop, but I will go away. So I'll jump back into my Facebook groups or follow up on some emails I need to address. But I will give it time away, visually stepping away and then coming back with fresh eyes and then looking at it and seeing what might be missing, or is the color theme correct, or do I need to kind of change that? So, yeah.
Can I come back to Barbara's question in there?
The graphic designer one? Yep.
Yeah. And look, and this is a side sort of thing, but it makes you also realize, long story or short story, my hairdresser is married to a tattooist. And I was talking to him and I said, where did you learn tattooing? And he said, I'm not a tattoo person, I'm an artist. And he draws all the designs for his tattoos on Procreate, and he draws them on the skin freehand. And that was the eye-opener for me, Andrew, because I just thought, there's a narrow world of what we think about artist and creative, but then there's so many different genres. And so that was an aha moment for me, thinking there is so many types of creativity and artists. But it was a perception that I had.
Yeah, nice. And then Richard says, I can remember myself getting into a freelance job, and all I wanted to do once I arrived was to get the job done as fast as I can because it was boring. But if I remember, I did a good job and they were happy. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's a little dry and other times it's quite creative. And then Barbara says that she did a Google search and it went crazy in answering the difference between graphic designers and artists.
Yep. And this is really, I find this really interesting, Andrew, the different comments. And I'd like to say thank you to everyone, putting in some comments and thoughts, because it's really good. We don't get a chance to talk to other creatives as much.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like we're in this world where everyone's posting their work, but we're all a bunch of introverts. So we don't get the time to kind of have this nice digital
Yep.
art talk, this kind of chat.
Yep. And then just looking to see if we've missed anyone there. But I think, coming back to the original question, Andrew, why do you create? And I think we've all looked at it in different ways, but I think there's similarities, that we all do it for the peace, the inner soul, the feed the soul, all of those things that some people may not understand. And that's what I think is really interesting about coming from the photography side, where I'd get in and think about all the technical. But when you were doing the technical, no one was actually saying or teaching you, about what are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are the colours that are speaking to you in that scene? And I think that's where I've probably transitioned. And so it's just made me, some of these comments, it's made me think of my journey and everyone else's journey in here, that why they're creating.
Yeah, great. And I wanted to showcase some wonderful textures that you've been working on.
Here we go.
Fine art textures, textures extravaganza, textures bundle.
Yeah.
Distressed scratch textures, pop of color textures, autumn textures. Do you want to talk about these, Sandra, a bit?
Oh, if I have to, Andrew, but yeah, I will. But I was talking about being creative, and if I can't create an image, guess what I create is the textures. And so I create what I call fine art textures. Now, it was interesting when I was doing a talk. As a photographer, you think of textures, but actually what we're photographing is surface photos, bricks, concrete, all of that. So this is fine art. And so this is my little thing that I create. And so I'm creating all these different textures, and I use them in my storytelling and in my images, not all. But I think that textures for me is, if you look at some of the colours, some people would go, oh, they're a bit wacky on the colour. But I use them for depth of colour, and I build my colour up. So when I'm using those textures, I might use a yellow, and then I might use a blue texture. So you've got your two different colour combinations, and that's what gives you some depth. So I don't necessarily put colours in my shadows and highlights on some of my images. I'll use the textures. But Andrew, we've got a deal. I have to do a little bit of a plug because it's a great deal. 30% off for your textures.
That's right.
My textures.
So yeah, I think these are wonderful textures that you can use with your composites, and even with retouching. There might be like backgrounds that you need to kind of add something nice to. So
yep.
I've been letting people know in the groups, and wanted to let people know here during this talk, as well as my followers on YouTube. So you can use the code Andrew30 to get 30% off these wonderful textures from Sandra D Imagery, who's right here. And you would go to sandradimagery.com/Sandra D Imagery textures with digital art. And I will try to post that when I post the recordings in different places, but do also feel free to reach out to me or Sandra for that link and that code again. So, but once again, that's Andrew30 to get 30% off these wonderful textures from Sandra D Imagery, and sandradimagery.com/Sandra D Imagery textures with digital art. Yeah.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah. Doug's got love yous in textures, and
nice.
I love creating them, and I've just been, Andrew, creating textured backgrounds to whack animals in. There's the technical term of placing them in. Cool. But there's been some fabulous comments, really interesting.
Yeah, Barbara's saying that texturing is an art in itself.
Yes.
So, is an art itself, yeah.
Yes, great. It is, Barbara, very much. Andrew, what have you got from all these questions? What's it made you think? And I'll share what it's made me think about as well.
I think I guess overwhelming feeling is the fact that we're kind of all in this together. That I feel like a lot of us have the same feeling and viewpoint that art is something we must create, but it also is something that is like therapy. It kind of refreshes our soul in a way, and it's a form of meditation, timelessness, and it's nice to hear other people going through the same kind of feelings about creation. So, yeah, it's a healthy expression, I think, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's why we're doing these talks, Andrew, is to give something, that can get creatives talking. Exactly, we are stronger together, and not feel that you're the odd one sitting out in the corner because you view the world differently. And I think that's what we all do. We do view the world differently, and we express it in what we create. So, I've really enjoyed just this stimulating. For me, it is stimulating because it gets you thinking and it fires up the mojo and go, oh, I need to create something. And, some fantastic comments in there.
Yeah, we might have to create a next theme for or question topic, something like what is your preferred topic of creation, or what is your preferred theme of what you create? And not just like, digital art or photography, but like, do you do more like surreal imagery? Do you do very realistic imagery? Something like that would be a good one, I think.
Yeah.
But
and it's fabulous. So
yeah,
thank you, everybody. It's
thank you so much, everyone.
Oh, hold on a minute. There we go. I was going to wear my pink sunglasses, but I couldn't find them. I did a massive cleanup when I was in lockdown. So they're somewhere floating around, but I'll need to resurrect them for the next one. I'll go out, Andrew, and get some. I might get some shades with the Aussie flag on. There you go. That'll get it going.
Yeah, thanks everybody for being here today. And
I do have to read these.
Keep your eye out for Wednesdays. That's where we'll be doing these events.
Okay, Andrew, shades. I'll put it out there as shades.
Yeah, as a digital artist, I create art that is out of this world. Yeah.
Yeah.
No need to be held back by boundaries. So.
No, exactly.
Andrew likes the shades.
Oh, Andrew, that's a cool photo. Look at that. We could go Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Yeah, he's got the shades.
Yeah, exactly. Hold on. It looks like he's one of those, what do they call it?
Steampunk. It's like a steampunk.
Yes, thank you, Andrew. Yeah. I couldn't think of it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool.
So,
well, thanks everyone for being here.
Thank you.
And Swati says, thank you very much. Sandra and Anna, great to listen to the interview.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very much appreciated for everyone coming in.
Yep. Keep coming back.
Exactly.
Try to do it every Wednesday, digital art talk. And just a reminder to also, if you enjoy these talks, please check out my YouTube so you can subscribe for my digital art, Photoshop and photography focused live streams and tutorials. Just go to YouTube, digital. Well, that's been changed. I should have fixed that. It's now Digital Art Drew instead of Digital Artist Andrew Kavanagh. But Digital Art Drew. And you can find Sandra at sandradimagery.com and on Instagram at sandradimagery. Great.
Yep.
And I'm also at behance.net, Drew Cav.
If anyone's looking for creative inspiration, get into Behance because it's just amazing. Yeah,
Behance is a lot of fun. So many different portfolios you can check out. So thanks everybody for being here. Really appreciate it.
See you later.
Great. Thank you all.